Okay, back with the other side of the Caucasus pop-up group. That is 155 for 170 at 500 hot. So that's enemy aircraft entering the area. And since we have already pulled out, it doesn't really matter for our purposes. And I think that's... I gave two a line abreast. Yeah, there we go. That is two in line abreast out there to my right. Just playing around with different formations. So that's two formed up out there. As we are about 72. Geez, that far? Yeah, I guess that would be about that far, since Mozdok is way further. That's Nauchik right there. Mozdok is way further on the north side of the Caucasus than I guess I thought it was. I so rarely fly on this side of the Caucasus. It's usually down there by the Black Sea. But let me see, I was also thinking on the way back here about the problems I was having slewing the reticle when I was lining up on those rocket deliveries, and that's another pop-up group, 156 for 180, 500 hot. So you'll see that in TACVIEW. It's beyond my scope of worry at this point. But the way that I have the cursor set up, and I don't have any way to show this on the way out, and I believe I'll have an on-the-range video available on this. I remember doing something, and I think it was exactly that, how to do the cursor and get it to respond the way that you want it. And I think I note in that video that trim is very important, because when you slew the cursor, it's not ground stabilized. And if you really think about it, other than the laser rangefinder, I mean, there's just no reference in the aircraft for what the ground level is. Therefore, there's no way for any cursor like that, or I say cursor, but the reticule, to ground stabilize. There's just no way for the aircraft to know where the ground is. So that means when you make small corrections like that, it's going to be a little bit twitchy, and it might not do exactly what you want it to do. And having a very neutral trim, so that as you're flying, and I'll just sort of dip my nose over, if I, for example, wanted to move the cursor up, I would just make sure that the cursor, as I'm looking at it, is just perfectly stabilized on the ground, and then I would make the correction. I would almost describe it as flying the aircraft in the direction you want the cursor to go, almost as important as slewing it. I think in a couple of cases I was just gently nudging the aircraft in the direction, and that's how I was able to get it onto the target, because I just wasn't able to really get the slew control to override what the aircraft was doing, so I had to sort of use the aircraft to my advantage as much as I could there. And on that last shot especially, I just couldn't get it to work because I was sort of fighting the trim. I had a lot of, I think it was a little bit of forward pressure on the stick, trying to keep that reticle stabilized on the ground. And I think just wasn't able to fly the aircraft smoothly enough with that much out of trim on the aircraft to make that go the way that I wanted to. I think the first few shots were okay, about as well as I would expect under pretty much any circumstances, but I think the trim is what really got me on that last shot as I'm looking for the airfield out there to my right. I've got it in sight right there, just on the other side of the river, 40, or actually I'm down to 34 kilometers right now. That's another pop-up group, 165 for 190, way far away from me. And what I'm going to do now is just go ahead and go ATC Mozdok inbound. And as I get that call, I'm going to go flight. Oops. I just overrode that. I was about to go flight RTB, but okay, let me just sort of let this run its course. Okay, there we go. Now let me back out of this. Let me go flight. Go to, that's F3, RTB. Okay, and there he goes. He's going to pass over my left. And no, is he turning right or is he turning left? It's a little bit hard to tell. Well, anyway, I'm just going to come up here, turn right, and then turn to the left to line up for a final at Mozdok on runway 26, I believe it was, that I took off on. So let's think about airspeeds. Okay, I'll just shoot for about 270 on the approach, and then I think this is like the 5th or 6th mission in a row in like a semi-unfamiliar aircraft where I haven't bothered to look the numbers up, but I think if I go for about 270 on the approach and then touch down around 210, I'll have no trouble at all. Okay, so let me go ahead and turn around here and sort of get lined up on a downwind leg, and then it'll just be a left-hand turn, landing in the opposite direction, pretty much as I'm going right now. Okay, and then let me actually get it out of the air-to-ground mode and have the gun sort of saved back in just the nav mode. And yeah, I don't need anything, or I don't really get anything in the HUD that's supposed to help me out in this case. Let me throttle back and start to bleed off some altitude and bleed off some speed. So I'm looking back there and I see someone or something out there to my left. Okay, a little bit premature, but yeah, let's go ahead and request landing F1. Let me kick the speed brakes out as I'm still up at around 600 kilometers per hour, and that's because I have the nose down, descending at a fairly rapid rate here. Then it's just going to be a right-hand turn followed by a left-hand turn. And I'll give myself plenty of room to make this work. I don't have to make these turns too terribly tight. And speed brakes back in. And that's got me down to about 470 or so kilometers per hour. I might have been saying knots at certain points, that just occurs to me. But these are kilometers per hour, and I see the aircraft on the ramp down there. I can't really ID them from this far out. I know I had a couple of Su-25s. I think those are the ones on the right, and then some Su-27s. I think actually the Su-27s took off, and there's just Su-25s out there on the ramp that I see now. Okay, so how am I doing here? Let's go ahead and bleed off some more speed. I'll get it below about 300 before getting the flaps. We're down in the neighborhood of 300 or so before I get the flaps. Let me trim the nose up just a touch. Actually, let me do some math here quickly in my head. I think about 380 or so, I think is what I'm going to go for, kilometers per hour. Okay, so flaps. Okay, first detent. And let's go ahead and go. I'll wait for, I think that yellow tick mark right there on the, I think that might be like the max gear speed or something like that. But I'll go gear down and then turn directly around to the left. Let's get the gear. Let's go flaps full down. Or actually, no, flaps full down. I need to go left shift F, I think. Yeah, there we go. That's got him coming down. Okay, got good gear down indications, good flaps full down indications. Now let me just sort of watch the airspeed indicator, glancing down there, just sort of setting up within a little sweep, looking around at the rest of the instruments here for descent rate, looking at my altitude, looking at the airspeed, and then just looking for other stuff I'm running into, and all that while maintaining alignment so that I can roll out on a good glide path right here, and this is going to work out just fine. I think it's actually way easier for me, at least, to judge the angle that I'm coming in and to get the, I guess what would be a proper like glide path or glide slope into these runways in VR. Much easier to me, at least, in VR than in on a 2D screen. Now let me throttle up a little bit as I feel that I'm getting a little bit slow there. 250 was feeling a little bit squirrely, but yeah, I think I'm good all the way down to like 180 or 190 or so. Actually, I don't think it's going to be any issue, and I'll pull the throttle on in. That'll allow me to descend. Okay, clear to land. Okay, yep. Verify gear down. Okay, a little throttle to cut into this descent. I think this, yeah, that feels good right about there. I think that'll be the approach speed that I'll go for. About 220 or so. Or I should say final approach speed. Okay, I'm just sort of nudging the throttle in a little bit. I think I was picking up a little bit. Okay, coming in, I just need to flare right here. And let's go ahead and pull the throttle on back. Okay, touchdown. Am I even going to need the chute? I might just pop the chute. I'm definitely not feeling that I need it. Let me go right shift P. I think that did the chute. I could be wrong. And looking back, I can't really tell. And like I said at the beginning, I think that's one of those key commands. That's the one that I don't really have noted down in front of me for some reason. But yeah, in either case, I don't really think that I needed it. I don't think the chute went out just then. It doesn't feel like it. Let me go F12 to get rid of the comms menu. Okay, and I'm just going to take it off to the left right here. This will work, why not? Okay, that's mission successful. Light damage inflicted to the enemy, but with no losses. So I'll take that. Light damage, heavy damage, any damage that I can take, I'll consider that a success for my purposes. 189 for 180 at 2,000 flanking. More contacts called in. I thought I saw 2 landing out there to my left as well. I'll get rid of the comms menu and I'll just take it up here to the left. And yeah, that'll be the ramp position where I took off from. Let me go ahead and raise the flaps. Yeah, there we go. That's definitely 2 that just landed. I'm just coming by the Su-25s, 4 of them up here on the ramp that I see. So I guess instead of Su-25s, it was those Su-25s that got airborne at some point. There's 201 in the air. Actually, I believe that's probably those Su-25s, speak the devil, that were here on the ramp. Okay, so we're approaching the spot. I think this is the spot, more or less, where I started. I'm just going to bring it in right here. Taxi in this direction and then face myself out there opposite the main base, since I don't want to fire the gun unintentionally into these buildings. So I'm just going to face in the least hazardous direction, which in this case does look to me like it's out there on the other side of the runway. I'll be picking up the Marshall right here, going into chocks. Okay, more AWACS calls, and I guess I overshot the spot that I was originally parked at, but then there's still plenty of taxi room in front of me. I'll take this. Okay, well, let me go ahead and open up the canopy, left control C. As I hold the brakes, the canopy snaps into position, and shutdown is going to be as simple as going right control end. That's going to get number 2, the right-hand engine shutting down for me. And, well, no time like the present. Let's go left out end to get the left engine. Very, very complicated shutdown procedure, I know. And then for power, let's go for right shift L. And there you have it. I'm looking forward to seeing the TACVIEW on this one. There was a lot of stuff going on that I didn't see. A lot of ground targets that I didn't pick up on. But I think, and I've always sort of thought, at least for me, you know, having just done air-to-ground over and over and over, that it can be a little bit too easy at times to pick up targets. And I think this time there was enough stuff shooting that I was able to pick up what I needed to pick up. And it wasn't just a total cakewalk when it came to overflying or not overflying the ground targets. The obvious ones that I could see I shot at. The ones that were not visible and, well, shouldn't have necessarily been visible if they used any kind of camouflage or concealment, they shot at me. So, I mean, that, I think, was a good mission. It felt good from that point of view. So, okay, let me go ahead and get out of the cockpit here. I'll go to the debrief and we'll see how things went. And now for the debriefing TACVIEW. We'll pick it up with myself and my wingman getting airborne from Mozdok. There really wasn't a whole lot to manage during this phase of the flight. There weren't that many other package elements to coordinate with. Everything that I was coordinating with as far as time on target was already in the target area, so it was just a matter of getting airborne and flying out here. Now the Su-24s have softened things up in there a little bit. They took out some of those ZU-23 AAA emplacements for me. Well, maybe 1 or 2 for me in there, so it was softened up a little bit. And I still have the Su-27 cap, although no aircraft threat materialized until the very end of the mission when some stuff started to get airborne from out there around Tbilisi. So yeah, really sort of an uneventful flight out. Now right here, I pick out this little valley or depression in the terrain as a place to hold. And it occurred to me as I was editing the briefing together that I never really looked at terrain as part of the pre-flight preparation like I normally would. So I think if I had looked at that during the preparation, I would have picked this spot as an initial spot to hold at. But no, for some reason that just didn't occur to me this time. And anything that I can figure out as part of the planning, that's where I want to figure it out. I don't want to be thinking about that sort of thing at this phase of the flight. I have other things to worry about other than figuring out what the terrain looks like. So lesson learned there, take my time on the briefing. So I come in and I'm thinking about air threats at this point. You see that I'm dropping chaff and flare as I come in, just preemptively in case something decides to take a shot at me. I was expecting SA-9s and SA-13 IR guided missiles, which might have been sort of a red herring on the mission designer's part because those systems are in the mission, but they're not here in the target area. So all I was really dealing with was AAA. So I come in, I get up into a cloud. I think I noted that in real time that I had lost the target. Briefly, I started to take some AAA fire, actually take a hit, I think it was right there, and drop 2 CBUs on target. Now these were actually pretty good runs. The bombs were a little long, maybe, I don't know, 20, 30 feet, maybe long. And so on the external view replay, I was kind of disappointed in the result that it showed, but they were good hits on the exact 2 aim points, maybe about 20 feet long, 20, 30 feet, so I'm happy with that. Now, I take a lot, and I mean a lot of ground fire coming off these targets, and this is something that I believe changed a couple of patches ago. There was a patch note about adjustments to the accuracy of certain units, and I think this is one of those cases. There is no way I would have been shot down probably on that CBU run a couple of patches ago, because ground fire was just notoriously, and I think it still is in DCS 2.0 as of this recording, just notoriously accurate, and you just get the one little golden BB that completely ruins your day. But in either case, a combination of me moving the aircraft around and possibly an adjustment to the accuracy of some of the ground fire allowed me to get on and off that target, even though I did overfly a lot of those enemy positions. I come in to make another run, and this is the point where I try to launch 2 missiles at once. I've done this a million times. This technique works. I think I just had too little time between the missiles, so I get the first missile off. The idea being to allow the first missile to hit and then to adjust the aim point and have the second missile come over to the second aim point. As you can see, the path does arc. I just didn't give myself enough time to get onto that second target. It was close enough though. I mean, that's a hit about 20 feet away. That's enough to do what I needed to do. So then it's just getting back out of that area, dodging the ground fire as it comes up, and I think 2 sort of drew some of the fire away from me. I was sort of in a bad way there. I saw a lot of stuff coming right by my canopy. So I come around, and this time I just decided to go conservative and fire 1 missile. This is actually a pretty good hit on a BTR-80 APC, so that was the only, I guess, good run out of these 4 missile runs that I made. And I come around one more time, try to pick out some more targets, but again, this group is really the only one that I saw. I make the shot here, and this one was ineffective just due to bad trim on the aircraft. I think at this point I was, as you can see, in a dive, so I was increasing my airspeed in this dive, and as the airspeed increased, the nose tended to pitch up. So I think even when I fired the missile, I had some on my stick, forward stick pressure. And as I got further and further along, faster and faster, it was more forward stick pressure required to maintain the aircraft in forward flight. And then when I tried to slew the reticle over a little bit just to tweak up the targeting, it just threw it completely off, and I was never able to really get that under control. So that one was a little bit short and left. But overall, I think that was the only really gross miss out of all the missile shots right there. And now looking at this mission in hindsight, one thing that I really could have done here is, since there just was no SA-11 or SA-3 threat here, and this is only something that I could tell right now looking at the TACVIEW, or you could tell in real time since I had all this up there for you, but there was no reason for me not to come up to like a medium altitude, especially with those CBUs, and make those drops from a higher altitude. I was down low expecting a radar guided missile threat in the area, so I didn't want to be up high and get taken out from long range, but that did put me down into the ground fire, so that would have been another option. And now that I've seen that the ground fire is overall, it's just seems, at least, maybe it's just my imagination, but it seems a lot less precise. Now, I think I would have the option to, like in the A-10, I hardly ever use the gun because that's just suicidal against situations like this. I think I would have had the option of, even in the Su-25, rolling in on some targets with guns at this point and not having to worry so much about getting shot down. I mean, I would only before give myself maybe a 50-50 chance of that not actually resulting in a shoot down of my aircraft, but now I think I would be comfortable going in with guns just based off of what I've seen here in this mission. This could change at any time, or It could just be my imagination, but I think I will have that as an option a little bit more in the future. So folks, that's it for this mission. I hope you enjoyed it and the way that it was presented. And like I mentioned at the very beginning, it is a little bit hard and tricky to present one of these missions from the VR point of view. Hopefully this was at least a first step in the right direction on the ways that are at least possible to present one of these missions. So I'm going to move on from here. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.